And we are back. Our second guest is here to bring the weekly show fully into Mardi Gras season. He is the editor of the Mobile Mask magazine and is in many ways a historian of Mardi Gras in Mobile and along the Gulf Coast. Please give it up for Mr. Steve Joynt. So Steve, before we start, tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, first of all, are you a lifelong Mobilian?
I am not.
Where are you from?
Originally from Virginia.
Okay.
I spent 15 years working in newspapers in Birmingham.
Okay.
That's kind of when I started getting into New Orleans Mardi Gras. And then in 2000, I moved to Mobile to work for the newspaper there. And of course, immediately got immersed deeply into Mobile Mardi Gras.
So a lot of people, they get into Mardi Gras kind of like when they're a kid, parents bring them parades, so on and so forth. You kind of found it a little bit later on.
Right, and I tell people that, it's funny how if you grow up in a place and you learn how to tell somebody where something is, you say, oh, it's past the hospital, and then take two lights, and then the person you're talking to will say, is that north or south? And you'll go, I have no idea. I only ever know, go past the hospital. Because you learn it by being there. Whereas somebody moves to your city, the first thing they do is start looking at maps and learning direction. They see it in a completely different way. And I think that's what I bring to Mardi Gras coverage is an outsider's viewpoint. But I've been here long enough that I'm
so you know
in
what
it
you
and
need to let the outsiders know about.
Exactly.
Basically.
Exactly.
So what made you decide to do a Mardi Gras magazine? And how did the creation of the Mobile Mask, and I'll put this up for one of the cameras.
Please do.
How did the idea for this magazine come about?
There's a magazine in New Orleans called the Arthur Hardy Mardi Gras Guide. And Arthur's been doing this for 40 plus years. So he invented the Mardi Gras magazine, the annual Mardi Gras magazine, the guide to Mardi Gras. And there are many, many people in New Orleans who just wouldn't even dream of starting the Mardi Gras season without having their Arthur Hardy guide in front of them. And so, there I am, I'm an editor at the Register, and, I'm assigning Mardi Gras stories and that kind of thing. In fact, when I got there, the other editors looked at me and said, "You're the Mardi Gras guy." And I'm like, why? And they said, because we're tired of doing it and we need new ideas. So that kind of started that for me. And the more I looked around, the more I said, why doesn't Mobile have something like the Arthur Hardy Guide? And I went from there. I talked to Arthur a lot, got some advice and ran some things by him, and got it started.
Now, what do you think makes Mardi Gras so magical and fascinating? Is it that it's such an old tradition, or maybe or is it that maybe it started off with secret societies? Or?
We only have a few minutes. So.
Yeah.
But I think it's a number of things. Some people refer to Mardi Gras as a party. I say anybody can throw a party. It takes a special place to do something for this long and sustain it and grow it with no government involvement at all. And that's really one of the amazing things about Mardi Gras is that the government provides, fire and police and barricades and stuff like that. But if it were not for the mystic societies and the parading organizations, there would be no Mardi Gras. And those organizations are all just average, regular folks, and average, regular folks have kept this going for more than 150 years. It's amazing. I tell people, if you could have this in your town, if we could somehow transplant this to your town, you'd pay big bucks for this. You would.
And it's a good tourism draw even for Mobile.
Oh, sure.
Well, while we're talking about that, what do you think? I kind of know what some of the different. I've been in New Orleans for it. I've been in Mobile for it. I've been I rode actually in New Orleans. I felt really obligated to do it in the first parades after Katrina.
Right.
When they were rebuilding and they thought that attendance was going to be horrible and everything, instead of ending in a dome, had to end in other places because so many things were damaged. What do you see the differences from your perspective, the differences are between New Orleans Mardi Gras and Mobile Mardi Gras?
I first say the similarities are more than most people realize.
Okay.
One of the things I find out is that most New Orleans residents know of Mobile Mardi Gras but have never been. Most Mobile residents know of New Orleans Mardi Gras, but have never been. And they have misconceptions on both sides. I start off by telling those people, the other city is much more like this than you realize. That said, I think without a doubt, the New Orleans Mardi Gras involves everything bigger. Just turn up the dial.
Well, I've found Mobile, my personal opinion is Mobile seems a lot more family friendly.
Well, it depends on where you go in New Orleans. I mean, if you go
Metairie, Metarie's more family friendly.
Well,
too.
or if you go past Lee Circle, it's all families and kids running around and whatnot. I mean, it's absolutely the same thing. But the organizations in New Orleans are much, much bigger. The biggest organization in New Orleans, the Crew of Nicks, is over 3,000 members. The largest organization in Mobile is about 650 active members. So that's a huge difference to begin with. And the money they have to play with as a result is different. The parades are huge. The biggest parade in Mobile, the biggest individual parade, is going to be about 20 floats. The Crew of Nicks that I just mentioned in New Orleans, 44, 45 floats, and most of them are tandem floats, meaning floats stuck together. And I can't stand up through the entire thing. I have to sit down before that parade is over. It's so long.
What are some of the stories or things that will be appearing in this year's edition of the magazine?
I've got a profile of the Mystics of Time. It's a very popular parade in Mobile. I've got stories like there's one about Bill Lagman, who was the Guy Lombardo of Mobile Mardi Gras. If you didn't have Bill Lagman at your ball, you just you weren't up to snuff at one time. Back when orchestras were big. Now
Mobile has got a Mardi Gras tree now.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do, and we actually had kind of a hand in that. The folks on our Facebook page had a big hand in that, and several of us kind of got the idea at the same time. But I put it out there on Facebook and said, "Hey, what do y'all think? Don't you think we should turn the Christmas tree into a Mardi Gras tree, just like everybody does in their own living rooms?" And the response was overwhelming, and the city actually responded to it.
It's like, we don't have to take it down. We just said, that's the reason why we have sometimes our tree, this time it actually went down at a normal time, but sometimes our tree will go it'll become a Super Bowl tree, a Mardi Gras tree, it'll just convert through. It depends really on if the Saints make it in, honestly. Finally, how can somebody get a copy of the magazine?
The magazine, you can find it in 21 different stores in Mobile and Baldwin counties. We have a list on the website of exactly which stores you can get it at, or you can buy yourself a copy right through the website.
And the website is, we'll put it right down there for you.
It's mobilemask.com.
Mobilemask.com.
Easy as can be.
Well, and we'll be back shortly after we pay the bills with these messages with Mr. Steve Joynt.